This is the Golden Rose Aura. Today I have tea with my signature cup. I like to use this cup specifically when I film, but sometimes I switch them out. And if you haven't guessed by the name of this title, we're going to be talking about the winter arc today, which I know I'm kind of late to jump on this trend, but I have been perpetually sick the entire month of November, and I did start my winter arc in November instead of October, which I know that some people had jumped on it in like September, October. I started mine specifically in November, so it would encompass everything through January, because January is a hard month for me. And if you are somebody that has seasonal depression, I super recommend that you start whenever that comes in full force so that your mind is preoccupied on something. But we're just going to get into what a winter arc is if you don't already know, and then some really mindful ways to move through it if that's something that you're interested in doing before the new year. That being said, the winter arc is about a 90-day transformation time that you pick around fall into the coming winter. So you're jumping on to resetting and reinventing yourself before the new year. So it's kind of you taking the reins on your life and steering yourself back into the direction you want to go before the new year, which is when most people start their realignment. So it's perpetually you're doing that for about 90 days. Some people started in September, some people started in October. I knew about this trend in September, and I made it a thing that I wasn't going to start until November, because I want my 90-day transformation to include January. If you know which month is the hardest for your seasonal depression, I would encompass that 90-day period, into that time frame somehow. So that way you are working on something and you're building new habits by that 90 days. I super recommend that. But I've started mine like perpetually sick. So my winter arc is very in terms of reset, recover, relax. Some people have gotten into the grinding harder and discipline, and if that is how you operate and that's what you really like being productive, being on the grind really motivates you, I love that for you. I don't particularly value that in me, mostly because it's pretty easy for me to be productive, I suppose. I'm very good at keeping busy. It's harder for me to relax and recover intentionally. So I decided during the winter arc that because this is a season of hibernation, that I would go into a rest, reset, recover type of arc. And if that's where you're at, I love that for you. And I super recommend that just because it aligns with the seasons. Particularly spring and summer are more about blooming, or more about productivity and getting your goals. And fall and winter are about resetting, realigning, and planting those seeds for the following season, for the following year, if you were to follow the seasons. I am somebody who feels better aligning with the seasons. If you don't, if your seasons are like flipped, it's totally okay. Your winter arc might not be your thing, but like your summer arc might be a thing. Like whatever works for you. If the sounding of a winter arc sounds enticing, as it did for me, like try it. Who knows? You might not get to 30 days. You might get all the way to 90 days. It doesn't matter. I think this is a really beautiful time to realign as we get through the season, as we get through the holidays and the craziness of the holidays, and as we get closer to that new year. I think that's incredibly beautiful, actually. I think the idea of winter arc is really beautiful. So that's why we're here talking about it. Sorry, I made so many notes about going through the winter arc. Oh, yes. Okay. So for my reset and recover, if that is your intention, this feels like a really good time to set really small habits. And like, I do mean small, like I do mean microscopic things that are attainable, but they require like a little bit consistency, like a little bit more mindfulness of, I gotta do that. Or not I have to, but I get to do that. Or I'm gonna do that. So small habits in the beginning and then like progressively add more after the 30 days would be awesome, because it takes about 21 to 30 days for you to implement a habit into a routine. Some people it takes longer, some people it's like shorter. It's like once you start doing it, you get it. I am a long period person where I need a long time to do something before it becomes routine. But I do recommend doing small habits right now. And they could be so much as like brushing your teeth in the morning, or doing a scalp massage before you go to bed at night. Like something small enough where you're like, it's convenient, you can do it, and it doesn't require that much work. And then you can start adding other habits that you want to add to it. If you like to start with a bunch, that's awesome. Make sure you're not setting your expectations too high, so that way you know what works and what doesn't. Sometimes if we have too many things going on, we're a little scatterbrained and we can't accurately gauge what is and is not working for us. So I do recommend like smaller habits. If you are a female, sometimes picking habits during phases of your cycle is really important. I am really good in the beginning half of my cycle of sticking to a habit very mindfully, and I can move very slowly and very gracefully. But towards the end of my cycle, I will habit stack like 1,000 things because I'm restless and I can't sit down. I can't stop moving. So I do end up adding like a ton of things in the end period versus the beginning, but I don't end up sticking with them. I only do them in the end, which technically fits in the 30-day period, but it's not as consistently as I would like them to be. So if you are somebody and you notice that you'll start things or end things during certain times of your cycle, that's really good to keep in mind for things that you don't want moving forward and things that you do want moving forward. And that's the biggest thing about the winter arc I would like to talk about, is surrender, is letting go of what does not serve you. That is like a big thing for the new year as well, is like, you know, like set new goals, like what didn't work, what didn't you achieve. But I think it's important that you're kind of mindful of that as the season wraps up. I think that time can feel really sped up at the season. So I feel like it's really important that you're looking at things that didn't work with an unbiased lens, and you're like, okay, that didn't work, and you let go. Not necessarily let go of the goal, but let go of, okay, that didn't work, and we are going to try again. We're going to try something different. It really can't hurt to do something different for the same goal, or to alter your goal a little bit. Like, if your goal was like to walk every single day, and you're like, I need to walk an hour every single day to get my steps in, versus like, well, at least if I walk 15 minutes every single day, that's attainable. So it's like you could be altering it to be smaller like we were talking about, smaller attainable habits. Or you could go even bigger. You're like, that was way too easy for me. 10 minutes was nothing. I could have doubled that. Or I could have stacked that on the weekends when I have extra time. So it's kind of looking at what does work and what doesn't work, especially when you're moving into something routine. If you're in the midst of changing your entire life, rest and recovery is really, really important for you, because everything is chaos. So making sure that you're being mindful of how your body feels and how you're mentally feeling is really important. I threw that in there. I know that I know a lot of people in my life right now that are going through extreme change, and the thought of habits is like out of the picture. But if it can be kind of internal, if it can be more of a taking care of yourself, I think that it is a little bit easier to keep your eye on, like a little bit easier to focus on, because you're already dealing with so much externally. So I think going inside is really, really special for that. Let's see. I did not miss anything, but I did write some ideas of how you can get onto your winter arc. And they're kind of journal prompts, but you don't have to journal prompt them. If you want to like answer them in your head or like write them down in your notes, that's perfectly okay. I might put the screenshot of these up on this video. But the first thing towards realigning yourself on your beautiful winter arc is, how have you been taking care of yourself this year? How have you been taking care of yourself in terms of sleep, in terms of movement, in terms of nourishment, in terms of what have you been eating, what have you been drinking, what hasn't really worked for your body, what has. I think those are really beautiful things to answer on your own. And again, to not be biased about them. You're just like, yeah, that didn't work. I didn't stick with that. And once you know what that doesn't work, what does, you can start to, what can I work towards this season? And I will give you an example. So how have I been taking care of myself this year? I've done a lot of journaling. So I would write, I've done a lot of journaling, and I've been extremely introspective when I am overwhelmed. How's my sleep? My sleep is awesome. How's my movement? My movement could be better. How's my nutrition? My nutrition's getting progressively better. Once you answer all that, what could you start towards the next season? It's like, oh, okay. Well, I could start to do more of a night routine. I could start to do more like body massages or body oil before I go to bed at night. Or I could cut out this one food for a little while or minimize it, so I'm only having it like once a week, really dropping it down because it doesn't make my body feel good. I feel like once you cut things down more, and you start to adapt to less of what doesn't make you feel good, you'll naturally just not want that thing. But you got to get out of that comfort zone of always having that thing. So I think that really small step could be something you gear yourself to for the next season. But it doesn't have to be big, and we don't want it to be big. We want what you want to change for the season to be very small things. And I want you to be very mindful of what you want to start with first for the next 90 days. Number 2 is, how are you utilizing your time? This is super important for also implementing your habits, because you want a habit that's small enough that you can just plug in without making a huge gap of time. However, you do want to be mindful of how you're spending your time. What is, oh my gosh, I can't, words. What is draining your energy? That's it. What is draining your energy? and what uplifts you. So, like, does scrolling on your phone drain your energy and then you feel bored or restless or just kind of lacking motivation because you laid in bed and scrolled on your phone? Or does being on your phone give you a little bit of a break from the busyness of your life? I'm somebody who loves to scroll and watch really funny things. I love to laugh. So those are little dopamine hits for me, but it's also not something that I would like to consistently do where it takes up an hour of my time. So how are you utilizing your time? And in what ways can you change that moving forward? Or would you like to change that moving forward? It might not be something you want to fix right now, especially with like the chaos of the holiday, like I was saying. But if this is something that you would like to be more mindful of, just writing it down, being aware is a big thing. It's always the first step. So how are you utilizing your time? And what is draining your energy? What is draining your energy that you are giving your time? And number 3, giving from a place of a full cup, not an empty one. This isn't necessarily a step, it's like a big reminder, which is why I have it at the end. Because this is the season of giving, this is the season of also receiving. While we are in our winter arc, it's important to know, especially if you feel burnout, you can only give from a place of a full cup. So it's not fair of you to not be taking care of yourself and be running on empty, be running on E, because you're not able to fully show up for others. You're not able to fully hold space for others. You're not really fully able to give what you can from who you are because you're running on E. So it's really important that you're really honest with what you need and that you can give that to yourself. And that you can give that to yourself so that way what you fill in yourself, you can radiate out into others. You can spill into other people's cups. You don't need to be the sole provider for others, unless you're a parent, but you don't need to be the sole provider of another person's needs, but you can give from a place of a full cup and help and inspire and gift and support people how they need from a place of abundance and not scarcity. We cannot give from a place of lack. That runs us down in the worst way. It hurts us, it hurts our immune system, it hurts the way we show up. And it isn't fair of us to help out others and not help ourselves and expect other people to understand that. Expect other people to know how much we gave up for them, how much we did for them, when they don't know that we're running on E. We didn't have the space or the time to give them what we did. So they can't possibly appreciate it as much as we do, as much as we know how much we gave. We should not be sacrificing that much of ourselves for others when we are low like that. We need to be helping ourselves. We need to be filling up our own cup. We need to be fulfilling our own needs. And if you find that that statement, that question itself, is not something you can do, you really need to go and reflect inside. We definitely need to be coming from a strong foundation, and our foundation does come from within. So if you are somebody who feels like they can't fill up their own cup, we need to be thinking of ways in which we can get our needs met through what we can control. So that way when others give or provide for us, we can receive exactly that with a very big heart, with a very full cup, without relying on external validation and without being low enough where we are giving and giving and giving to others and feeling like we're not getting the same thing back. I know that was a little heavy. But giving from a place of the full cup and not an empty one is really important. It's something that I've been working on pretty much the whole year. Everything is such gray area. Everybody is so different. Everybody's values are so different. And there is so much more I could get into about being in service of others and still holding yourself in high regards. And that's not at all me saying that you should not help others, you should not provide for others. I don't believe that you should be, like selfish, but I do believe that self-care is very necessary. Self-care is not selfish. Filling up your own cup first is not selfish, because that is how you're going to provide for others. You will be able to give more when you are fulfilled. That's selfless. That's taking care of others. That's taking care of everything. And it's a really important concept to work with. If you loved that and you love that concept, I so invite you to work on that. It's challenging. It's challenging. Especially if you're like a people pleaser and a fixer, or somebody who's very in service their whole life. It can be a lot. It can be a lot, I know. But it's beautiful nonetheless to feel that abundance inside of you and be able to share that with others. And I think that this is a really beautiful time for you to do that. I think the winter arc's the perfect time for you to do that. So those were my 3 little journal prompts to get you kind of thinking in terms of how to realign for the coming months. Even if you don't end up doing a winter arc, if you end up waiting for the new year, at least you kind of know ways in which you can think about realigning and setting intentions. And that is my take on the winter arc. I hope you loved this. I've been meaning to make this video for literally a month, but I'm glad I ended up doing this for the start of December, because December is a magical month. So I hope this reaches you well, and I hope you have a beautiful day.